This is Akashvani. In the program Spotlight, we now bring you a discussion on Prime Minister's visit to Saudi Arabia. The participants are Dnyaneshwar Mulay, former ambassador, and Simran Sodhi, journalist.
Today we are discussing Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Saudi Arabia. The Prime Minister is currently on a 2-day visit to Saudi Arabia. This is the Prime Minister's third visit to Saudi Arabia, and we see that in the last 10-15 years, the relationship between India and Saudi Arabia has gone from strength to strength. Joining us in the discussion today is Ambassador Dnyaneshwar Mulay, who is an expert in the Middle East. He is a retired Foreign Service officer. And also joining us in the discussion is the special correspondent of Prasar Bharati, Vinod Kumar, who is covering the Prime Minister's visit. Ambassador Mulay, when we see the Prime Minister's visit to Saudi Arabia, and as I said before, this is the third time he is in Saudi Arabia, we've also seen that the India-Saudi relationship has really progressed strength to strength in the last 10-15 years. There is also perception, or one can see that there is a personal chemistry between Prime Minister Modi and the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, and that has also lent strength to this bilateral relationship. When you see this visit which is happening and the relationship, how important is the Prime Minister's visit to Saudi Arabia?
Well, both in terms of timings and the substance, this is going to be a very significant visit. The fact that you mentioned there is a third visit of the Prime Minister, one in 2016, then 2019, and now 2025. And if you see the graph of relationship, it has really become multidimensional. We also very serious discussions in areas like space and defense. And as you also said, the personal chemistry between two leaders always contributes immensely. Because at that level, if there is a solid interest in building the partnership, automatically, it spreads, it goes everywhere, and, it has multiple ripple effects. So we see that this is a very, very significant visit, and the kind of warm welcome that the PM has received goes to show that, some very interesting and very positive outcomes. And as rightly said mentioned by the Foreign Secretary, now we are looking for adding substance to the relationship, which in itself is a very interesting word, because you have the basic framework, there is an understanding, we have come to a particular point, and now it's time to take off. So that is how I see this relationship moving forward.
Ambassador Mulay, we also see that Prime Minister Modi and the Crown Prince will co-chair the second meeting of the India-Saudi Arabia Strategic Partnership Council during the visit. And it is expected that a large number of MOUs, that is the Memorandum of Understandings, are expected to be signed. And the key discussions will be centered on strengthening economic ties, defense cooperation, and addressing regional political challenges. The interesting part is that if we look at the India-Saudi Arabia relationship, it has moved from just being an oil-centered relationship to a relationship which today has diverse sectors. We are talking of defense cooperation, we are talking of culture. How do you see this diversification in the relationship, and how does it take this bilateral relationship forward?
I think, again, a very valid point you have mentioned. It used to be actually a two-dimensional relationship. One was related to our import of petrochemical and LPG. The other was our diaspora there, our people working in huge numbers in Saudi Arabia and the entire Gulf region. From there, if you see the canvas of our relationship, you see it's not only growing exponentially, whether it is our energy partnership, and now the new areas like space. Then you have this India-Europe corridor, which Gulf, of course, has a very prominent place, and the partnership council meeting that is going to be held. All in all, we seem to be moving in all sectors, because health is also there. We got culture included in the possible agreements that are going to be signed. And this is what, true relationship means. There are various kinds of relationship with countries, but this one is solid, it is future-oriented, and it is based on very strong past partnership. So there is only way ahead, and we don't have to look back now on.
Vinod, I wanted to ask you, since you are there and you are covering the Prime Minister's visit, what according to you are the aspects of the relationship between India and Saudi Arabia?
See, when we speak about the aspects of relationship between India and Saudi Arabia, quite broad based. We have got excellent political relations, economic cooperations, defense relations, and cultural relations, and of course, we have got a huge Indian diaspora working here. Speaking about economic cooperation, Saudi Arabia is India's fifth largest trade partner, and India is Saudi Arabia's second largest trade partner. And the total imports has been reached to 31.42 billion in the last financial year, and we have got exports of the tune of 11.56 billion. And we export a lot of engineering goods, petroleum products, chemicals, and while we import a lot of LPG, oil, crude. And as we mentioned, that because of the strategic partner, the relation has expanded to a strategic partnership. We are currently in a position to wide gamut the relationship between India and Saudi Arabia. It's not only to within the oil economy, but to be even broad-based. To this extent, the first meeting of the joint high-level task force of investment was held in last year in July 24, and executive meeting was held this month. And we have got very good defense relationship with the Saudi Arabia. We have got a naval exercise called Al Mahad Al Hind. We have last year for the first time we had a joint land force exercise called Sadat and Seek, and Saudi Arabia has participated in India's Tarang Shakti. And last year, after a gap of long years, there was an MOU signed between the two countries, Munitions India Limited, the tune of $225 million. Both these countries are trying to become Atmanirbhar when it comes to defense, and this has got good synergies within each other. And cultural relations, yes, the last many years we can find that culturally also we are getting integrated. Yoga is becoming a big thing in Saudi Arabia. One of the yoga exponents in Saudi Arabia, Anouf Al-Marbai, she was accorded India's fourth highest honor, the Padma Shri, in 2018. Last year in the Indian Embassy, a women conducted the yoga session in Saudi Arabia. And when it speaks to Indian community, its diplomats mentioned this as a living bridge. It is 2.7 million strong this year. Dr. Saeed Anwar Khurshid was awarded Pravasi Bharadisam, and he is from Saudi Arabia. And the annual Hajj pilgrim, the Hajj quota currently stands at 1.75 lakhs. These are the main aspects of relationship between India and Saudi Arabia.
Ambassador Mulay, as we saw Vinod also explain the various aspects of this bilateral relationship, and he mentioned the Hajj quota, which for 2025 has increased as compared to the past. But we also see that Hajj is going to be, and the quota for Hajj is going to be a point of discussion between Prime Minister Modi and his Saudi counterpart. Pushing for the Hajj quota is also a priority for India, given the fact that there are a lot of Muslim citizens from India who want to go to Makkah and perform it. How do you see this going forward, especially given the fact that we have seen this relationship today grow, where Saudi Arabia is also very sensitive to India's needs and India's priorities?
True. India, 175,000 is perhaps among the highest quotas that Saudi has given to any country. And but there would be always a push from within India also. More and more people wanting to go to Mecca is a very normal religious aspiration, I would say, for Indians or Muslims anywhere in the world. And the Prime Minister personally taking up the matter has its own significance, which also means that he does think that this is an important thing for Indian citizens wanting to go there. It's also part that, as we earlier discussed, this relationship is not unidimensional anymore. It's multidimensional, and it's constantly growing and expanding.
Ambassador Mulay, another important aspect of this relationship, and this is something which is likely to come up during the discussions between Prime Minister Modi and the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, is the IMEC project, the India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor. And this was also announced in India when the G20 summit happened here in 2023. And we also had the state visit of the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia to India during the G20 summit. So we have a lot of coming together of events. We have the Crown Prince visit here, state visit, G20, and the IMEC being announced. And IMEC has created a lot of interest. A lot of people are looking at it as one project which will connect the economies of India, Middle East, Europe. But we also see that in the Middle East, currently there's a conflict going on, the Israel-Hamas conflict. How do you see the progress of IMEC and the synergies between India and Saudi Arabia given the project? Also in the background when you have a conflict which is playing out.
Well, I think this is a very laudable initiative taken by India to have this kind of a corridor. It creates synergies at a time when the world is facing a lot of uncertainty, unpredictable situation. There is also some kind of a disturbance to the established world order, may it be economic, may it related to migration. So this one initiative comes as one of the factors that will stabilize to a certain extent, the world order. Bringing together Europe, India and Middle East itself is a very, very creative idea. What will happen out of this? There are immense possibilities. There will be several kind of, I would call it grids, the network of relationship and the convergence of interests for these three major geographical areas. It will also have important significance for geopolitical matters. India has its influence in Middle East, including on Palestine and with Israel. Similarly, Saudi Arabia also is a major player in that region. In fact, is a top player in the Middle East. So India and Saudi Arabia coming together, they might make some difference to the situation between Israel and Palestine also. We might have our own positions, but we also have the strengths and we also have convergence. And our common objective is perhaps to see a more stable Middle East, including some stabilization in the conflict between Israel and Hamas.
Ambassador Mulay, one area which we see developing very fast between India and Saudi Arabia is on the defense front. And this visit is also expected to provide a further momentum to this particular defense cooperation. Saudi Arabia signed a bilateral defense cooperation MOU in 2014 with India, and since then, joint naval and land exercises have taken place. It is also expected that there will soon be another round of naval drills. When we say that the India-Saudi Arabia relationship has moved from strength to strength, and we spoke about how it has diversified from being an oil-centric relationship, the defense factor then is a very important factor. And what is the strength and the trust that the defense cooperation brings today to the India-Saudi relationship?
There are 2-3 interesting aspects. When India, Saudi Arabia talk of defense, it will have some kind of impact in our own region also. It sends a signal to our neighboring countries also that, this partnership is not about oil alone. It has got important strategic elements, including space, including defense, including environment, health, education, almost everything. The second thing that I see in this particular partnership is that India has been wanting to become Atmanirbhar in the defense. We have huge manufacturing facilities. India's exports in defense have been growing consistently. So it will also perhaps help us in bridging the trade deficit that we currently have. Huge trade deficit, because 11 billion and 35 billion is the difference. And India still lacks adequate volume of exports to Saudi Arabia. It can also fill in that gap. But more importantly, I think it's a strategic move which will make the perception change. It will bring perception change in our own region as well as in the Gulf region. And overall, from global perspective, players in Europe and North America will take also note of this.
And we will continue our discussions as the Prime Minister continues his visit to Saudi Arabia. And we see this is one relationship which is going from strength to strength. And as a special gesture for the state visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, his aircraft was also escorted by the Royal Saudi Air Force as it entered the Saudi airspace. We expect the talks to happen between the Prime Minister and his Saudi counterparts, a number of MOUs to be signed in the coming day. We will continue our discussions as we get more details on the visit. With these comments, we bring today's discussion to an end. Thank you.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on Prime Minister's visit to Saudi Arabia. The participants were Dnyaneshwar Mulay, former ambassador, and Simran Sodhi, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may share your feedback about this program through email at airnsdtalks@gmail.com or WhatsApp on 9289094044.